Good evening, everybody. This is the Community Preservation Committee meeting. This is a Zoom meeting through Florida Government Television, FRGTV/channel 18. The meeting will be available for viewing on Comcast Cable Channel 18 in Florida or the website frgtv.us/live on Facebook, www.facebook.com/FRGTV/live streaming on livestreaming.com/accounts/128-960-38. The meeting is Tuesday, January 12th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Could I get a roll call of all the committee members? John Brandt.
Here.
Jim Souza, here. Victor Farias.
Here.
Thank you. John Ferreira.
Here.
Paul Machado.
Here.
Kristen Cantera Oliveira.
Here.
Thank you. So we're missing two board members. We need appointees from the city council, and we're missing a board member from the housing authority until they decide on who that will be. I'll also like to introduce Sandy Dennis, our clerk. Sandy?
Hi, Jimmy, you don't have any citizen input that was submitted.
Okay, thank you. That was my next question. That's item number 4. The next item is item number 5, which is the CPC committee member vacancies. It was asked by us, there was no formal letter, but it was asked by the city council president that we may, or if we could, discuss and talk with the people who applied for the city council positions. And we do have 4 people that applied: Caroline Alvin, Alex Silva, Richard Mancini, and Danielle Bixley. So I'd like to just one at a time bring them into the conversation and just explain your resume to us and possibly like what makes you a good fit for our board. So if you don't mind, Caroline, can I bring you in first?
Sure thing. So I'm Caroline Alvin. I graduated in 2019 from Salve Regina University. I hold a bachelor's degree in cultural and historic preservation. So I've studied various aspects of the preservation community, whether it be hands-on work through physical conservation of objects or buildings, all the way through to management of historic sites, as well as as well as cemetery conservation work as well. I have also been a full-time employee of the Fall River Historical Society since September of 2019.
Caroline, where did you do cemetery that cemetery preservation work? Where was that? Or conservation
That
work?
was at the North Burial Ground in Newport, Rhode Island.
Nice. What exactly did you do with that particular like task or project or?
Our job was to take various plots that were given to us, various headstones and tombstones, and essentially put them back into the ground, as well as cleaning them and fixing any breaks that had occurred.
Interesting. Does any of the board members have any questions for Caroline? No questions for Caroline? Okay. So, I mean, obviously you are familiar with CPC. So we've awarded the Historical Society several grants, which you possibly were familiar with and maybe even helped write up their application and stuff. So you're slightly familiar with the CPC process.
Yes.
Any questions for Caroline? No. Next up then is Alexander Silva. If you want to just talk about your resume and your interests in, I guess, preservation also.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Silva. I'm born and raised Fall River resident. Currently, I work at St. George's School in Middletown in the communications department. I got my bachelor's degree from UMass Dartmouth in writing, essentially. After that, I worked as a reporter out of Concord, Massachusetts. And actually, one of my towns, Littleton, was one of the first communities in the state to adopt the Community Preservation Act. So I actually wrote about it quite a bit in years past, and I had some familiarity with it even before moving back to the city. I'm currently a board member of the Preservation Society of Fall River. It's kind of where my interest in historical preservation manifests currently, but I'd love to extend that into a city board or committee just to kind of give back. I really am supportive of the overall goal of the Community Preservation Committee. I think it focuses on some aspects that aren't really looked at too much, especially, when it's a tight budget year. These are the types of things that kind of get shut off. And I really appreciate the work that you do. As a member of the Preservation Society, I'm well familiar with the impact the funds can make on a project. We purchased the Dr. Isaac Fisk House not too long ago, and firsthand I've seen the results of the funding at hand. So yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and thank you for your consideration.
And you were really active with the NB Boarding School, and currently probably still are.
No, as part of the Preservation Society, we look at a number of advocacy issues, and the NB Boarding School is certainly one of them.
Does anybody have any questions for Alex? We all got to see his resume. We all have our their resumes, correct? All right. So thank you, Alex. Next up is Rick Mancini. Rick, if you want to speak about your history with the city and your involvement with the city too. I know you're very active also.
Yes, I've been with the Historic Commission now since its inception, which was probably 10 to 12 years ago. Also on the Historic District Commission, and I just enjoy the older homes. That's one of my loves. I've been living in them since 1966. So, it's just something I enjoy. My background is actually in facilities, which sort of blends right in very well to these properties that we acquire and working on them, because the background that I have is in facilities manager. When I retired, I was the director of engineering and maintenance at Rhode Island Hospital, which was a $3.5 million square foot complex. So you did get to deal with some of the older property we had, and dealt in the construction end, which I think would blend in very well with the CPC committee, because you're dealing with reconstruction of a lot of projects. So in the 78 years that I've had, I got a lot of background. So I don't want to go into all of that. It'll bore you to death.
Well, I mean, I know you obviously own and live in an historical property. You live in a historical district. I mean, you're well known in the city already from the Historic Commission. So it's good to hear that everyone has that interest in this, because I mean, it is the Community Preservation Committee, so it's important. So,
It is.
Does anybody have any questions for Rick? All right, thank you, Rick.
You're
And
welcome.
last up, we have Danielle Bixley. So Danielle, if you can explain, your resume to us and your interest in this too.
Sure, thank you. So my name's Danielle Pixley. I'm 33 years old. I reside in the city. I grew up in the city. I grew up in the South End. I now live in the North End. I graduated Durfee High School in 2005, went to St. Anselm College. In 2009, graduated law school at Suffolk Law School in Boston. In 2012, I am now an employee, an assistant DA from the Bristol County DA's office. And I currently work in the Fall River District Court. So I feel as though I do have ties to Fall River, and I will be completely honest, this is a new area to me. I just think it's a great opportunity to be able. Well, I first should say that I heard from Paul Machado, who's one of the members. He was one of my supervisors, and he works as a defense attorney now. And he approached me and told me a little about this committee in the background, looked it up, certainly applied, as you guys can see. And it just seems really interesting, just being a lifelong resident of Fall River, to know that this exists, to maybe discuss proposals, budgets, go to sites, and be able to work on new projects. So I don't quite have experience, I'll be honest there, but I can let you know I support Fall River, and I would like to see it thrive and continue to do well. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have to be honest, I really like the fact that there's youthful, I mean, I'm going to put myself in the older category, being 60 years old, but I really, really like the fact that part of our youthful generation is really interested in this, because I think it's important to groom youth into helping our city move forward. I love to see that. So, I mean, and I actually like to see women on it too, because I think that's one thing all boards across our city are lacking is that equality. So that's another thing that I like really am an advocate for too. So does anybody have any questions or comments on any of this, on any of the candidates? No? Okay. So we were asked again by the city council president to, look at your resumes, talk about them, and possibly give them a recommendation about it. But I don't necessarily know if we will give them a recommendation. I think we'll discuss this briefly once we're done here now with the four of you. But it might not be beneficial to actually like point out a particular name. I really think it's possibly that it's their responsibility, I'll call it. But it's good that we actually got to see you, hear from you, listen to what you said about your history and reasons why you would be a good fit for this committee. So with that, I thank you. So any other questions, comments for the four candidates?
Yeah, I
Jim,
would
I'd
like to
just
thank,
like to,
Go ahead, Paul.
Jim, I'd just like to say that I think we have four great candidates that appear tonight. I do think that I would like to see some diversity. But, Mr. Mancini's resume was.
I know.
But I like to see some diversity, and but we have four great candidates, I think, tonight.
I do too. Yeah. Anyone else want to make a comment? John?
I'd just like to thank four candidates for joining us tonight and telling a little about them. I think all four would make a great choice by the city council.
Yeah, and also, it was exciting to see even four candidates. Usually we get no candidates. So we truly appreciate that too. So it's good to see there's interest here for this, because it's such an important thing that's going on. And, I think we've made some great changes to the city in a positive way, So, and I'm glad that two of you are going to be part of it. Was that somebody else speaking? No. Okay, any other comments from any of the board members? No. So I thank you, four of you, for coming on. You can exit the meeting if you like, if you want to, and you can just continually watch it with us if you want to just, leave the video and then stay on listening to what we have to say about the rest. But we'll discuss this a little bit and see what our recommendation is for the council. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that being said, does anybody on the board have any thoughts on, do we just send it back to the council just saying, hey, all of them are very good candidates? Does anybody want to discuss what they think? I'll let John Ferreira speak first and then Kristen.
Well, to be honest, I looked over the resumes today earlier, and then I looked them over before the meeting, and I kind of numbered them 1 through 4 in the order that I thought. But after hearing all the candidates, I might as well throw that out the window. Because the ones that 4 was, mentioned some concept of what they did that I didn't really pick up on, and it's just to echo everybody else's sentiments. The 4 candidates were great. I don't even know who I'd pick. So as far as putting it back to the city council, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Again, to me, any one of them, we got youth, we've got women. So, we've got knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's a great predicament to be in.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Paul, did you want to say something, Paul?
I'll wait.
Okay. Kristen?
Yep. So I agree with everybody. I think all 4 are great candidates. I'm so happy to see that we have so many people that are interested. And I would be happy with any of them on the committee. I just, my own personal feeling is that I don't think it's a good idea for us to choose between them. I think that if we like all the candidates, which it seems like we all do, I think that we need to refer it back to the city council to actually make the decision between the 4 of them. I don't think that decision should come from us. It never has in the past. And I just don't think that it sets a good precedent where we are the ones who choose the members of the committee. I think it should be, if it's a city council appointee, I really think ultimately they should make that decision.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment?
I agree with Christine. All 4 candidates. It's nice to see the young gentleman, the 2 young ladies, and then Mr. Mancini has a wealth of knowledge. But I don't think we should be picking our own board members. And I think all 4 would be excellent choices for the city council to choose from. That's my point of view on that.
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Paul. Are you on mute? Are you muted?
I checked the statute. And the statute, General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5, describes that the committee shall consist of no less than 5, no more than 9 members. It indicates that the ordinance or bylaw shall determine the composition of the committee, the length of its term, and the method of selecting its members, whether by election or appointment or by a combination. So the statute is very clear that the bylaws that are enacted once the CPA is enacted in the city shall control. The bylaws in the city, 2-364, indicates that the composition shall be as follows. And it lists each department or each committee. And it says, the park board shall make a determination of its representative. And the bylaw is very specific in saying that, consistent with the statute. And that's, the bylaws say that for each of the committees that appoint members to the CPA. And then the last, that's 2364, section 7, says 2 citizens to be appointed by the city council. And again, that's pretty clear and pretty
That they should pick.
concise, that it's their role. And I agree that while I think that it was useful for us to meet the candidates, we can pass on. The city council will have access to this. They can see the candidates themselves, but I think ultimately we should not make a recommendation and they should make their own vote.
Yeah, okay. One thing I'll say too is actually, I actually emailed Stuart on this exact question and exactly what you said, like, do we have the right as a board to discuss these candidates before the city council, actually makes the choice, because that is who has to make it. And he said, as much as I definitely do agree with you, Paul, and I actually agree with the majority, like the board saying that it should go back to the council for the vote. He was also saying that many communities throughout the state actually do exactly what we're doing, and some actually do make recommendations to the city council. So obviously each town has its own way about doing things. And I do agree with you, Kristen, John. I mean, they're all good candidates, and I think we should send some sort of a letter to the council saying that we spoke with all of them, we received their resume, we actually like all of them, and that they would all be good candidates, and they need to figure out, who they would like to see on our board. Because like you say, I agree. Any 4 of them would work well with me. Although I have to say, I like the diversity in the women. That had to be one thing that I actually would almost hope for.
And Jim, Stuart, in discussing other communities, those communities may have different bylaws than Fall River. So it's very clear that there's no provision like that in the Fall River bylaw.
Yeah. So we don't really necessarily have to take a vote on this, but what I think we should do, I would like to have Sandy formulate a letter to the council, and Paul, if you could just forward Sandy that the bylaw, or where you saw the requirement for the council, so she would actually have the exact location where they can look at it. I think that would be important, but I think we'll just generalize how we actually liked all the candidates. I don't know if we should go into the point of the diversity thing or not. Do you think we should not, or just let it go at that? Because I mean, I think diversity across our city is important, period. So do you think we should put anything in our letter saying we appreciate the fact that these candidates have diversity that the city is lacking, or anything in some sort of format, or leave it go? Any thoughts? What's your thought?
Just leave it the way it is.
I don't know. Anybody else have any thoughts? Should we not say anything about that diversity? Let it just forget about it?
I mean, it's a good point. It's a good point, but at the same time, if we say that, then it almost makes it sound like
We don't want 'em.
making recommendations, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Diversity is a great thing. We need it. We need it across a lot of the boards. But again, I don't want to feel like we are making any move one way or another, trying to influence them in any way. I think it really needs to be strictly on the city council. I mean, the city council themselves should understand why diversity is important in the city. We need representation in so many different ways. And, I would hope that when they make their decision, they think about all the different aspects, and they.
Yeah, so then we'll just do a letter with the bylaw saying that we would take any of the 4 candidates and let it go at that.
Sounds good.
All right, John. John,
Well, either way, we've got four good candidates, and no matter who they pick, we're going to be diverse one way or another.
Jimmy, do you want
It
me
might
to?
not be in a majority, but we'll be diverse one way or another.
Paul, do you have another
Yeah,
question?
well, Jim, rather than sending them multiple letters, I'd be willing to draft the letter and include the bylaws and just what we discussed here, since I'm going to be putting it in the minutes too.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
long as that's okay with Sandy.
That's okay with me, Paul. What you might want to do is strongly encourage the council to do what this committee did and invite the four candidates to do their brief presentation of themselves. I think that everyone looks good in writing a lot of times, but I think to give these four candidates an opportunity to introduce themselves to the city council will be important, because you all learn something about each and every one of them that you didn't know from reading their resume.
That's a really good idea, because
Yeah.
a lot of times, I mean, I don't see very many people ever go before the city council when they're being voted on for positions on the board. And I think that, to me, that's not really doing their due diligence in actually getting to interview any of these people, because putting a person on a board is a responsibility. And
That's
I
right. And I
think
think this is, Kristen, the first committee that's actually conducted interviews on committee members. And I think, Paul, maybe if you can put that in the letter that you strongly recommend that they invite, it doesn't take long. You did take a lot of your time to listen to them. And it gives the four of them an opportunity, to meet and talk to the council.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good
definitely.
idea. That's a good idea to put in the letter. So I don't think we need to make any specific vote. We're going to send a letter to the council with that recommendation, as that's what they asked us for, and they will not so much vet them out, but listen to them and realize what their credentials are and make a
And
choice.
Paul,
from
I
there.
need to send that to the city clerk by the end of the day tomorrow so they can get it on their agenda. So it's kind of, I hate to put this to you, but it's a rush.
No rush, but it's a rush, Paul.
I had one other thought about, so in talking about the bylaws, there's nothing in the bylaws that says, for example, it says that the members of the park board shall appoint a park board representative. There's nothing in the language that I see that says that the person that they appoint has to be a member of the park board. So what I'm thinking is we have an open housing authority seat. We have, that's been chronically open. No one on the housing authority seems to be interested. Can we suggest that the housing authority select one of these good candidates?
Good
Well,
idea.
Can
That's
you,
interesting.
Paul? That is interesting. Can you possibly converse with the Corporation Council and ask him what he thinks about that?
Sure.
That's interesting. Huh.
I mean, he brings up a
'Cause I
good
mean-
point. It doesn't say
Yeah.
it, so then,
That is a good point.
They can designate someone.
right.
That's, you know,
Yeah. And so,
the
I mean,
city council,
like-
the city council representatives are not members of the city council. Right?
yeah.
So,
So I mean, yeah, it could be one of these candidates. Okay, that sounds good. All right. So actually, we on the agenda, we actually put a vote to recommend. So what I would still like to do, since we said that, I would actually just like someone to make a motion to have Paul's write a letter to the council. So Kristen, would you make a
Yep,
recommend?
I will make a motion to have Paul Machado send a letter to the city council to let them know that we are leaving the choice of the four up to them, and that we would be happy with any of the four. Also to include the bylaws in it stating why, and also that we think that it's a good idea that maybe the housing authority might want to select one of these candidates as well, since they can't get somebody from housing to put that in.
Okay, so with that being said, Do I have a second to that motion?
Second,
I'll second that.
So I have a motion by Kristen and a second by John Brandt. So I'd like to take a roll call vote. On the motion, John
Yes.
Brandt. Jim Susie, yes. Victor Farias.
yes.
Yes.
John Ferrera. Paul
Yes,
Machado. Kristen
Yes.
Cantero Olivera. Motion passes. Thank you.
so based on that motion, I'm going to include the housing authority idea and just put subject to corporation council's approval.
Well, I don't think so because this is specifically for the city council. So I don't know if we should put anything about the housing authority in that. I think, I think there should be a private, like not a private discussion, but just discussion of what you think that the bylaws or the statutes
Okay.
allow.
Do you want me to change
No,
my motion? Okay, so I,
Yeah, so you can amend it. So you
so
can
I
amend
will
your
amend my
motion.
motion and I make a motion that Paul send a letter to the city council saying that we will leave the decision to choose the two candidates to the city council and that we support any of the choices we think that all four are good candidates.
Okay.
Second that.
So, okay, so Kristen made the motion and John Brandt seconded it, and we'll take another roll call vote on that.
Yes.
John Brandt? Jim Susie, yes. Victor Farias?
Yes,
Yes.
John Ferrera?
Yes,
Paul Machado? Kristen
Yes.
Cantero? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next item up is about the deed restrictions. So I'll hand this over to Paul because he's been doing an awesome job on this. And if he wants to just give us an update on what's going on
okay,
with that.
well, pros and cons. We're moving forward, but not as quickly as I would certainly like. So the status is that we have 3 deed restrictions completed. I just went to City Hall and picked up a deed restriction, which was signed and notarized by the mayor. I have been in touch with the chief of staff, and once we get deed restrictions, I'm just going to send them directly to her. She's going to get the mayor to sign and then return them to me. Once they get returned, then we need the applicants to sign them in front of a notary. The one that has been that's been approved is the Elks Lodge. At some point, I think I'm going to sign as a notary. I'm not one now, so that way we can more easily get these done. In the meantime, perhaps we can make arrangements with Sandy to get the Elks Lodge executed.
I'm a notary, so I will try to get a hold of Mr. Hebert and have him sign it.
Yes, it's Mr. Hebert and his wife, because she's also something to do with the business. So both of them need to sign.
Okay, and then I'll chat with you, Paul, prior to.
And then what I'm going to do is, so that Sandy's not doing all of these herself, I am going to apply to become a notary so that I can assist. Now, that first deed,
I'm not,
that first deed was done back in October. And the invoice would have gone in the middle of October. And I've assigned that same attorney a second deed restriction. And he got the first one done within a week. And this second one has just kind of sat there. I'm thinking that he's waiting to see if he gets paid. And I think that waiting from October, period of 3 months to get payment is not a good sign. So I'd like to see if we can get some response from the city about getting these invoices paid?
Paul, is that Attorney Frank?
Yes,
Okay, because the paperwork's all that. I'll check with the auditor and treasurer because that bill schedule was done quite a long time ago.
yes.
So a lot of
So-
the, yeah, a lot of the vendors have gotten paid. Matter of fact, I also did the bill schedules for the other two attorneys. So they're in the process and they've been approved in the first step. So let me check on Frank because that should have been paid quite a while ago. And I'll let you know. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, because obviously that's my suspicion, is that we're not getting these done because, he's holding back to see, is the city going to pay him? So that's where we stand with those.
I,
Let's-
go ahead, Paul.
No, go ahead, Jim.
So I spoke with Mr. Rumsey for Corporation Counsel yesterday, and he said there is funds available in the legal department. So maybe if you want to speak with him about it, you and him speaking might have more clarity than me saying anything about it at all.
Oh, okay, because once they're done and signed, then they have to be recorded. I believe the recording fee is going to be $125 per restriction. And so we've had some in-house discussions about how that gets paid. What I also did was, I think Sandy asked a question, or you asked a question of Stuart, and Stuart sent a response back saying that the recording of deed restrictions is not an administrative expense. It's actually, so what we should be doing going forward is, for each project that requires a deed restriction, we should add about $550, pay the attorney and the recording fee, and that comes out of, whatever category, historic preservation, et cetera. Since we haven't done that, since we didn't do that in the past, what I did was I submitted a funding application so that we can cover the costs of deed restrictions going back. So that's going to be, since we didn't do the eligibility around, I guess it's going to have to be treated like an emergency funding application.
Now, even with the legal department possibly saying that there's funds available.
I didn't know that, Jim.
Yeah, so maybe we'll wait. Maybe once you speak with Mr. Rumsey, there'll be more clarity on that.
Yep. And then the last process is getting them recorded. And I think, I don't think we're going to have that many to record at the same time. So, if committee wants, I could run to the registry, record them, and then submit for reimbursement. Unless we can get checks up front. I don't know how that works, but maybe we can explore that.
Okay. Sandy, you would have a better idea with that.
Yeah, I mean, I would talk to Attorney Rumsey again, Paul, and see if they're gonna pay for it, if they can record them.
Yeah, no, I mean, if they're willing to record it,
Yeah,
that's great.
or I don't know if we can think about, again, looking for an intern through the law school to just work with the law department to file these at the Register of Deeds. I mean, I know it's not a big job, like you said, it's just registering them, but maybe they can help with, be present for the signature with the notary, kind of give them a little deed restriction, part-time intern job from the college, and then they can do all the running around with the filing. I don't know. I would talk to Attorney Rumsey and see how they get reimbursed from the Register of Deeds. I don't know how we would do an application for deed restrictions either. I'll talk to you about that too offline, because it has to fall under a specific category, and to file and pay for restriction.
No, what Stuart indicated is that the funds for the deed restrictions are part of each award. And that means that they fall into each category. So if it's an open space deed restriction, it falls into the open space category. It's just that we haven't been granting those funds for each specific project.
Right, but in his response also, he says the money, the funds for that could come out of the city's legal budget also.
Well, that's unique to every municipality. So we'll see.
Yeah, once you speak with them, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for this incredible work, Paul, that you've done on this, because it's definitely long overdue, and it's good to see that it actually is being done.
Slow, but we'll
It's
get there.
It's good job. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this item? And well, that's the last item on the agenda. We will be setting up a date. Sandy, did we come up with dates for the funding rounds?
No, but I would definitely start thinking about the dates that you want. Just so, because you're going to have quite a few projects, and obviously, you know, the funding rounds take a lot longer than the
Right.
eligibility. So depending upon how many projects come in, and I'll know Friday because Friday's the deadline. So far, I've gotten 4. But what happens is they all come in on Friday. So what I'll be doing is I'll know by Friday how many projects you have, and then how many are public, how many are private, and I'll let you all know. I'll try to work on that and try to get you that information by Monday. But you might want to set up 3 funding round meetings, I would say.
While we're all here, how many projects do you think we just should discuss in a meeting? You know, like, should we limit it to so many? What's the board's thoughts?
I don't know, how many do you think we're gonna have?
John, I have no idea because some have already withdrawn. Obviously from eligibility, some were not even eligible. So, I mean, you just never know. Probably let's say 20. At least, let's say a minimum of 20.
I'd say maybe do 4 or 5 a night.
Do 4 dates with, maybe 4 dates with 5.
Well, if we end up with, say, 20, we could do 3 meetings. Does that seem like too many? Too many projects per week?
It tends to be a lot. I think for some reason, it seems like it's a little more tedious on Zoom than it is in a regular meeting. So I think maybe a little bit shorter and maybe have 4 meetings instead of 3. So
Yeah.
there's going to be quite a few, because I know I've written quite a few letters of support for projects, just for historical stuff. So
Okay,
there are
we'll
going to be
see.
quite a few.
And from my perspective, Jim, in doing the meetings, in doing the minutes of the meetings, it obviously the number of projects increases the amount of time it takes to do them. I have to say, when we did all of the funding applications, it took me an incredible amount of time to do the minutes for that meeting, because I wanted to be detailed. So
Yeah.
from my perspective, I think that, 4 is a good cap.
All right. Okay, that sounds good.
And I'll let you all know by the weekend how many projects there are, and I'll try to spreadsheet them and let you know what they are. When you look at the projects, you're going to know the complexity of them and if they're going to be a shorter deliberation or a longer discussion. So you'll have a good idea. I'll try to get that all together for you so you'll have it. I'll do my best to get it to you by Monday.
Okay. When is the next city council meeting?
Tuesday night.
So that's good. So they'll be able to discuss
Yeah,
the
that's why I
applicants.
need the letter by tomorrow.
Yeah, because I think it would be great that these applicants get right into this round immediately.
I've already made copies. I've already made copies of all the eligibility projects for 3 candidates anyway, so. And they'll already have their funding applications because they're submitting 10, so whoever gets appointed will have, including, well, housing, and see what works out with that. They'll all get everything.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? And if not, someone wants to make a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second,
John Brandt,
Yes.
Jim Souza, yes. Victor Farias,
yes.
Paul Machado,
Yes.
Kristen Cantero Oliveira,
Yes.
and John Ferrera.
Yes,
The motion carries.
yes.
Meeting is adjourned.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.